Hello everyone. Today we will develop one application that is counter app using the React. So let's suppose here we have one button. So this is a button. This is a button. Okay. This is button. We have. I want whenever I click on this button, this value here it should increase. Suppose if we click on button first, then it will become 1. Then again if we click the button, it should be 2. Again if we click this button, increase count, it should get 3. Okay, likewise it will keep on increasing if we click on this button. Such app we want to develop. Let's go to the VS Code and we will create this application. How we will create? Let's first inside this we have already this component folder. Inside this folder we will create one more folder, that is counter. Let's say name it counter folder, and inside this counter folder we will create one file, that is counter.jsx file. Okay, inside this JSX file we will create one function. Let's say function we create as counter function. Inside the counter function we will return some value. Return let's say div. Inside the div we have s2 tag. Inside the s2 tag we will, let's say this count is okay, and then we will have one button. Okay, inside this we will have one function, let's say one variable, that is where count is equal to 0. Okay, suppose to do this, in order to do this, we need a concept of state variable. Let's understand little bit of state variable. Okay, what state variable is? What is the state concept? Not state variable, it's a state concept. Okay, state concept. From React library, we have a React library. Inside the React library we have one function, that is use state function. This gives us function, that is use state function. This function has one state, two element, that is first is state variable and second one is setter function. Okay, this is the first one and this one is the second. Okay, so this is the first is state variable and second is state setter function. Okay, so the setter function is used to update the value of state variable. We use the setter function to update the value of state variable. Okay, let's say by example we can understand it little bit. Let's say we have where my array, we have use state. State function, inside this we have, let's say some value 100, let's say. Okay, now this 100, this my array will have two elements. This my array will have two elements. Let's say we will go here. We will understand here. Okay, my array will have two elements. First is state variable. Okay, so here state variable will have this value inside it, 0. Okay, now to update this value, state value, variable value, we use this setter function. This setter function we will use. Okay, let's do it on UI. Okay, so for this what we will create, we first have to import the use state function. So first we are going to import. What we import? Use state function. Okay, from where we have to import that? From React library. Let's put it in double inverted comma, React library. Okay, we have to import it first, and then we will create inside this, we will create one more function, that is, let's say function name is increase count. Okay, inside this increase count we will okay, so this function we will call on clicking the button. On clicking the button we have to call this function. This is how we call the function in React. Okay, increase count. Now here we can apply some logic. Here we will use, in this counter method we will use use state, which we are getting from React library. Use state. Okay, inside this we will pass 0 as a variable for the state. Okay, and we will store this in my array. Okay, fine. And then what we will do, we will, inside this method, we are calling this method here. Inside this method we will use indexing to call the setter method. How we will use indexing? Suppose at 0, at index 0 we are getting the state variable, but at index 1 we will get the setter method. So we are calling the setter method, and then we will use this, okay, to call the setter method. Okay, now every time we want to increase the value by 1, okay, on click of this first, suppose here it is, when we click on this, then state variable have the value 0. Okay, now it will go inside this, it will call this. Okay, and inside this at 1 we have passed nothing to setter method. So inside the setter function we will pass what? That is my array 0. But on every click we want that to increase by 1, so we will add plus 1 here as well. Okay, so this is how it will work. Okay, and what we will do here, that is, here we will simply write my array 0, and we will close the parenthesis. Okay, now count is 0 at 0. Here we have the value what? We have this value at count 0. So when my UI will open, it will have the 0 value. If we store 100, it will have the 100 value here on whenever we will open the UI, start the UI. We have to export the default counter here. Default counter, and put here, and we will use counter, we will call this method in app.jsx. Okay, so here you will see we have done this. Now we will open the terminal, and we will understand this again from the beginning. Now we will change this, the package name is dude app npm run dev, and we will just write o and enter. button, there is a problem in button. We have not given the button name. We have not given the button name. Let's say in count. Okay, please count. Now we can open this. We have this. Let's see. On clicking this button, the value is increasing. Once again, we can understand it how it is happening. Like suppose firstly we have imported use state method because from the React library. Why we have imported use state function? Because use state function has the two element. First is state variable, second is setter function. State variable store the value, setter function is used to update the value of the state variable. Why we want to update the value of the state variable? Because here in counter app we want to increase this value on every click of button. Okay, suppose once first time we click on this increase count button, it should become 1. Starting default value is 0, so when we click on this button it should become 1. Second time we click on, it should become 2. Likewise it should keep on increasing whenever we click on the button. Okay, so here we have done this. Firstly we have imported this use state function. Okay, then we have written one function. Inside the function we have used use state function. Okay, inside this we have passed the value 0, so that whenever we start our application, okay, the by default the value of this count is become comes 0. Okay, initial value. Okay, and this is the function we have taken for updating the value of the count is value. Okay, this value we want to increase on every click, so for that we have taken increase count function. Inside this function we have taken this use state variable, and we have called the we have called this method, we have called the setter function here by passing the value starting value, that is my is 0, index 0 we have the state variable, whereas at index 1 we have the state function. Okay, so every time we want to increase the value by 1 on clicking the increase this button, so we have made plus. Okay, suppose first time we click, first time value is coming at 0, first time value is 0. Okay, when we click on this button, then it will become 0 plus 1, it will become 1. 0 plus 1, it will become 1. Now my array 0 will have the value how much? 1. Okay, now next time when we click, next time when we click on this button, then this 1 value become 1 plus 1, now it become 2, so here we will get 2 value 2. Okay, and now my array value become array at index 0 value become 2. Now likewise next time it will become 3, then 4, then 5, likewise it will keep on increasing. So this is the counter application you can see here. Okay, on every click we refresh, on every click is increasing by 1. Okay, so that's it. Thank you.